There is a solution. You'll find as you study this book that you go around page, then they'll give you a synopsis, kind of. And this is an obvious one. There is a solution. Almost none of us, like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of our shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. So they're saying almost none of us like doing the steps either. But we saw that it really worked in others. So there's a question. Have I seen evidence of this working in anyone? And we'd come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we'd been living it. Where are you at with that question? Not drinking, life. Hopeless and futility. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven and have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we'd not even dreamed. The great fact is just this and nothing less. The gloves are coming off. We've had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude towards life, toward our fellows, and towards God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous, or hearts and lives if you prefer. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. That is a big statement. They don't say anything about, gee, we're not drinking. They say, the great fact is this. We've had deep and effective experiences, spiritual experiences, and those experiences have changed my approach towards life, towards you, towards the universe. Central fact of my life today is the absolute certainty that there is a power. It's entered into my being, my thinking, my heart. And that power has accomplished those things for me which I was unable to do. Freedom from resentment, freedom from fear, freedom from my past, freedom from guilt, shame, depression, remorse, freedom. If you're as seriously alcoholic as we were, that's like saying if you're kind of pregnant, we believe there's no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we'd passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. We drink till we die. The other, to accept spiritual help. If you're anything like I was, if you said there's two options, I would go, well, there's got to be more than two options. I was a guy who lived in the gray area. It wasn't a lie. I answered your question. It just wasn't all the truth. You know what I'm saying? Always working in the margin. These guys are taking away the margin. They're saying, in our experience, if you're alcoholic like we are, you got two choices. You can drink till you die, or you can accept some help. That's it. We're going to take a second here. You can do this if you want. We're going to back to the spiritual experience appendix because there's an asterisk that tells us to do that.
It's in the back of the book, right?
Right. In my version, it's on page 569. It's Appendix 2, Spiritual Experience. Right. So we might as well find out what the hell they're talking about. Because, frankly, that paragraph we just read scared the hell out of me. That does not look like, that's not what I came here for. I didn't come here to look for God. I came here to not drink and maybe take care of a few warrants. You know, I mean, I did not come here to have a God experience because I didn't believe in God. And that just terrified me. And I didn't have Bill's experience for sure. No room lit up. No wind blowing through my hair. No profound experience of the presence of my Creator. I didn't have anything like that. So, I believe they wrote this for me. Because it really did open my eyes. After about 300 readings. The term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening used many times in this book, which upon careful reading, shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. We will all come to God in our own way. But all roads lead to God, if you're doing this trip. Yes, it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. In other words, they wrote this because they were getting feedback. They were selling these books, and guys were writing letters because there weren't meetings to go to. They were trying to get sober. They're writing New York, and they're saying, I must be missing something here because the room hasn't lit up. There's nothing blowing through my hair. It's just like we're not having Bill's experience. And they're saying the intention wasn't to tell you had to have Bill's experience, but that's the way we took it. So, among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety. That book is in the house here, Varieties of Religious Experience. It's a tough read. Educational variety. They develop slowly over a period of time. This piques my interest because I'm a trial and error guy. If you say so, I don't go, oh, thank you, and I just do it. I find out if it's true. I find out the way you find out, with your experience. That's how we learn, from our experience. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration, another word for change, in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find they've tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than ourselves, greater than themselves. God is within. You've experienced it when you tap into it, when you feel hope. That's the God within. Most of us think this awareness of the power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. They're saying just the fact that I'm picking up on that energy in me is the beginning of the experience. Waking up. Awareness. So here you go. This is the road. Right here. Most emphatically, we wish, Alcoholics Anonymous, wish to say to any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in light of our experience can recover. So there's the first promise. If you can do what I did, you'll recover. Here's the caveat. Provided you don't close your mind to all spiritual concepts. What does that mean? You can't do this as an atheist. I didn't do it as an atheist. I became willing to believe in the possibility. That was my concession. I'm willing to believe in the possibility that this power exists. I'm not saying it does, and frankly, I have serious doubts, but I'm willing to believe in the possibility. That's the only crack that's required. Can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. Now there's an interesting promise. The only thing that can defeat me is me. Attitude, dictionary, first definition, aeronautical, angle of approach. Angle of approach. The only thing that can defeat me is how I approach this. If I'm intolerant, belligerent, and denied, I can't get it. Where do those qualities exist? They only exist in my mind. This is saying the only thing that can stop me from getting this is me. That's great news. So I don't have to get her back. I don't have to get the job back. I don't have to get the bills paid off. I don't have to deal with the tax man. I don't have to. All that stuff is not a consideration. I can do this, have the experience, in spite of my circumstances, whether it's Penthouse or the Sally Ann. That's great news. So the only thing that defeat me is me, my mental state. We find no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. When I read that early on, I put 100% in front of each one of those qualities. 100% willing, 100% honest, 100% open-minded. And I just slammed the book and said, I can't possibly do that. Because I'm not that willing. And I'm certainly not very honest, and I'm not very damn open-minded. But here's my experience. My experience is if you have considered the first step and you're in front of that question, I really am powerless over this thing, over this alcohol thing, and I really can't manage my life. You know, just look around the room, look in yourself, look at your life, and just say, is this the life? Is this the perfect life? Is this the life you would have aspired to have? No, not at all. So what do I do with these qualities? Well, when I consider I'm powerless over alcohol, my life's unmanageable, I have come to a new level of honesty, I have come to a new level of open-mindedness, and the willingness is in the idea. I'm willing to consider something new that maybe I can't get over on this thing. You see, all three qualities are present right there. Then I crawl along and I become willing to believe in the possibility. Every step will increase my willingness, my honesty, and my open-mindedness incrementally. But when you start from the place that I started, it's very small steps because I was so belligerent. I was so closed-minded. I would just open it enough to be able to qualify to do the step. So I would just get that much experience. But we all have the capacity for those three things: willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, or you couldn't be sitting in this room. So the capacity, they're present. Now what we do is we expand them. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. It sounds like this: I'll do your steps when I understand how they work. That's nice for you, but I don't need it. You know, what possible use could I have for God? You know, I'm doing this honestly. I'm powerless and I can't manage my own life, and honestly, the rest of it I think is a pile of crap. So, there you go. That's what it sounds like for me. So let's go back. That's what they mean now when they're talking to us about spiritual experience. They're talking about a personality change that brings about a recovered state. So, this we did. Here, we'll separate a lot of guys out of this room. We did because we honestly wanted to and we're willing to make the effort. We're on the top of 26 now. We did this drastic exercise, the steps, because we honestly wanted to and we're willing to make the effort. Remember when I talked to you Monday, I said, everyone in this room needs some help. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have a need. But not everybody has a want. Not everybody has a desire. And both those things are required. I got to honestly want it, and I got to be willing to make the effort. And the effort isn't the kind of effort that we think of in our work world. It's not that kind of effort, but there is effort. A certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character. For years, he had floundered from one sanitarium to another. He had consulted the best-known American psychiatrists. He had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of a celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Carl Jung, who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him skeptical, this is Roland now, the guy who ended up getting custody of Ebby. Made him skeptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence. Why not? He was with the hottest psychiatrist on the planet Earth. Above all, he believed he'd acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs that relapse was unthinkable. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall. The guy just spent a year with Carl Jung and left with Bill's experience. I've got a lot of good information. The problem was he got on the boat to go home, and someone asked the wrong question, which is, Roland, would you like a drink? He said, well, yes, I would. It's been a long time. And he was off to the races. So, because why? What we need this, the doctor referred to as a complete psychic change. I need a new mind. That's why you go through treatment. You might finish and be kind of hopeful the first 2 or 3 times. And then you get out of treatment, and they're there. They don't give a shit about your spiritual condition. They're there. They're busy worrying about their condition, and nobody cares, nobody loves me, nobody supports me, and pretty soon it's like, yeah, hell with it. And I'm drinking. Why? Because my mind hasn't changed. My mind hasn't changed. It's like, being a drunken horse thief and they throw him in jail on Friday. When you release him on Monday, you got a sober horse thief. Exact same values and perceptions and attitudes, just sober. That's what happens when we get physically sober. You're in here right now. You're a sober horse thief. Welcome. Now, you're going to remain a horse thief until you get a new mind. That's what this is saying. So he returned to his doctor, right, whom he admired, and asked him point blank why he couldn't recover. He wished above all things to regain self-control. This is a guy who wants it. He seemed quite rational and well-balanced with respect to other problems, yet had no control whatever over alcohol. Why was this? He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth, and he got it. In the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society. He would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long. That was the great physician's opinion. In other words, you're hopeless, Carl. Roland, sorry. But this man still lives and he's a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude, approach. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help. Well, let's tell you the rest of the conversation our friend had with his doctor. The doctor said, you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I've never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you. Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang and asked him for a refund. Just seeing if you're listening. Wouldn't you? I just spent a year with you and a lot of money, and now you're telling me I'm hopeless. You could have told me that a year ago. He said to the doctor, is there no exception? No, yeah, the doctor replied, there is. Exceptions to such cases as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They're observable, but I can't reproduce them. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. Isn't that exactly what alcohol did? It's a brave new world. In fact, I've been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description. Now Carl Jung is reporting the same thing as Silkworth. There's a group of you guys that are hopeless. We know exactly what you need. You need a new mind. We even know what the new mind would look like, but we don't know how to get it to you. We don't know where the switch is. Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that after all, he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctor telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. Here was a terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself when he had the extraordinary experience which, as we've already told you, made him a free man. We, in our turn, sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. There's a nice approach. Desperation of a drowning man. If you were literally drowning, and a guy came by in a boat and threw you a rope, you'd grab it, right? That would be the instinct. Grab it, pull me to safety. Now, I'm dying. I'm drowning in alcoholism. You come along with a boat full of recovery. You throw me a rope and I go, what's this made out of? What if I'm allergic to the rope? What, and we start debating. We start having this debate. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. I was almost dead when I was 28. And I detoxed myself, and the first thought I came out of that detox with was, I'm sure not going to AA. That's a powerful illness. That's a powerful illness. Here's a rope. Let me help you. I don't know. I admit I am dying, but, just let me think about it. We wouldn't do that if you showed up at the doctor and said, oh, man, you got early stages of lymphoma. That's fatal unless we treat it. Well, you wouldn't say, well, talk to me about the treatment. You would probably say, let's get it on. I don't want to die. But we have an illness that doesn't let us see that it's killing us. And we have this debate going on. Well, AA is not the only way. No, it's not the only way. What other way are you going to try? Go try it then. But try something, I'd like to go to Al-Anon. Why? Because they can drink and do the steps. Nice. Try that for a while. And now everyone's going, yeah, Al-Anon, uh-huh. Whatever. You get the picture. What seemed at first a flimsy read, these stupid steps, these stupid meetings, these stupid exercises, has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works. The distinguished American psychologist, look at this God idea. When you read about Christ and some of the miracles he performed, he didn't pick people with hangnails. He picked people that were totally screwed up. And then they had this powerful healing experience. And what did he say? He said, no, it was your belief in the power that healed you, not me. Power came through you. But the example was always with the down and outers. Right? So now you get to AA. What do we got? We got rooms full of people whose lives were totally mangled by this thing called alcoholism. Now I can sit in front of you and I can say, you know what? New life. 28 years no drinking, better life. Better Roger. Better everything. Slowly. Got problems. Got areas that are still problematic. But you know what? I can tell you this. It's gotten progressively better the whole way. It's gotten progressively better the whole way. I don't intentionally hurt people. I don't intentionally lie. Sometimes I do. I'm not here. Tell them I'm not here. That's a lie. So, but, that's a lot different than, officer, I have no idea where this car came from. The quality of my defects has gotten much better. My friend Earl says, I got problems in areas I didn't even have. It's a blessing. So the miracle is of the recovery. Here's the deal. I was diagnosed by professionals, but I was diagnosed by myself as having a fatal, incurable, progressive illness. And I'm reporting to you, it's been arrested. Shit. That's big. That's big just in and of itself. But then all the rest of it is like frosting. I got 28 years of gift. I would have been dead by the time I was 30. So I got 28 years of gift. What am I doing with the gift? How am I saying thank you for the gift? Someone gives you a present, you go, is that it? Shit. I wanted a much bigger present. You go, thank you. So I get this gift of sobriety. And it took me a long time to be able to say thank you. But once you understand what you're a part of, and you've had this experience, you're impelled to give it back. And the more you give, the more you get. And so you're always constantly trying to pay it off, and you can't pay it off. The distinguished American psychologist William James, in his book Varieties of Religious Experience, indicates a multitude of ways in which we've discovered God. We have no desire, we Alcoholics Anonymous, have no desire to convince anyone there's only one way by which faith can be acquired. Isn't that nice? If we've learned and felt and seen, if what we've learned, felt, and seen means anything at all, it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, or color, are the children of a living Creator, with whom we may form a relationship upon simple in understandable terms as soon as we are willing and honest enough to try. Those having religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing to their beliefs or ceremonies. There's no friction among us over such matters. We think it no concern of ours what religious bodies our members identify themselves with as individuals. This should be an entirely personal affair with which each one decides for himself in the light of past associations or his present choice. Not all of us join religious bodies, but most of us favor such memberships. In the following chapter, there appears an explanation of alcoholism as we understand it. Then a chapter addressed to the agnostic. Many who once were in this class are now among our members. Surprisingly enough, we find such convictions no great obstacle to a spiritual experience. Agnostic. I'm not sure. I don't know if I believe or don't believe. We find that your confusion and your doubt is not an obstacle to having this experience. Further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we have recovered. Directions, not suggestions, directions. These are followed by 36 personal experiences, stories for you to read and identify with. What is the purpose of the stories? Each individual in their personal stories describes in their own language, from his own point of view, the way he established his relationship with God. The purpose in my story is to tell you what I was like, what happened to me, and what I'm like now. How I found and established and maintained a vital experience relationship with this power. That's what the whole thing is about. Find the power, hook to the power, come in company with the power, and work in harmony with the power. It's all about the power. These give a fair cross-section of our membership and a clear-cut idea of what has actually happened in their lives. We hope no one will consider these self-revealing accounts in bad taste. Our hope is that many alcoholic men and women desperately in need will see these pages, and we believe that it is only by fully disclosing ourselves and our problems that they will be persuaded to say, yeah, I'm one of them too. I must have this thing. Like I must have a drink. I must have this thing. That's a great place to be. So, they gave us the doctor's opinion. They told us Bill's story, who's kind of the prototypical drunk. They told us there's a solution. What are all the rest of these chapters for? The rest of these chapters are because they know I'm not convinced. They know I'm not convinced. So what's the next chapter? Here's some more about alcoholism. Because they know I don't get it. They've told me everything I know that I need to know to recover right now. But they know I've got arguments. You might call them reservations. But they're arguments about why I can't or won't or don't need to do this. So, chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No kidding. No person likes to think he's bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. I don't know about you, but that's not me. I was not trying to prove like I could drink like other people. I was trying to find a way to drink and stay under the radar. I wasn't concerned about drinking like Fred next door because, frankly, it looked not much fun. You know, I like drinking with Bubba and Charlie because they drank like me, but drinking like other people, they're referring to the normal ones. The idea that somehow, someday we'll control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. The idea that somehow it's going to be different this time. Somehow I'm going to get over it. I will get it back to where it was when it was working. It's a great obsession of us when we're trying to stop. It's not a great obsession for me anymore. That's gone. But early on, it's going to be. And usually in our drinking, at some point, that appears, you know. I know I can get it back. And that's what Bill was doing when Ebby showed up. Remember, his metaphor was the oasis. It's just like an oasis in a desert of futility. Here's Ebby. We can drink and we can recapture the glory of yesteryear. It'll be like old times. We'll go back in time to a place where it worked. That's our obsession. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves. I skipped a line. Many pursued into the gates of insanity or death. Kind of important. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we're like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. So, where do I take the first step? Inside. It's an internal job. Am I powerless over alcohol? And how am I doing with managing my life? That's just for me to know in conversation with me. They want me to look inside and answer the question. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost... Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was right. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control. But such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. That's a nice description of a bottom, isn't it? Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I do not have the will to go on. We're convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We're like men who've lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We've tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there's been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. I love it. They come out with the anti-craving pills and all that stuff, and every time one of those articles come out, my phone rings for about 4 days. It's all the guys that I've worked with or work with. Well, did you see the article? Did you see the article? Whoa, they got a pill. They got a shot. Wow, it's going to be great. No more craving. And I said, well, you better go to the clinic and get your shot. I don't know what you're going to do, but I don't have a craving. I don't need a pill. That's not my experience, But we're always looking for the easy out. We're always looking, wouldn't it be nice if we could just take a pill and have it all go away? God, I did that. It all went away for about 10 years. It just was gone. Not our experience. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they're in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exception to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. I'm different. That doesn't apply to me, those ideas. If anyone who is showing the inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we've tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. You see, they're not telling us what to do. They're telling us what they did, and they're saying, if you don't agree with us, that's fine, we understand. Have at it. Here's some of the methods we have tried. Here's a little checklist. Drinking beer only. Limiting the number of drinks. Did you ever run that limiting the number of drinks experiment? I did. I changed to a much bigger glass. A 32-ouncer. I'm only going to have 2 of these. Limiting the number of drinks. Never drinking alone. Never drinking in the morning. Drinking only at home. Never having it in the home. Never drinking during business hours. Drinking only at parties. Switching from scotch to brandy. Drinking only natural wines. So that means nothing with a screw cap. Agreeing to resign if ever drunk. God, wasn't it frustrating when you'd bust those corks in the wine bottles and you kind of drink that wine through your teeth so you get the good. God, I hated that. Hated that. Much too much work. Switching from scotch to brandy and natural wines. Agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job. Taking a trip. Not taking a trip. swearing off forever, with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum. Get the idea? Is that me? Did I run any of those experiments? What's my version of that? What's my version of that? You know, trying to convince myself that I could control it. We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic. Beautiful. Beautiful. Because to a man, we're not anybody who likes to be told what to do or when to do it. So they're not going to do that. But you can quickly diagnose yourself like this. Step over to the nearest barroom, try some controlled drinking. Sounds good. At least they're going to let me drink. So try to drink and stop abruptly. Now it's getting risky. 2, try it more than once. Won't take long for you to decide if you're honest with yourself about it. It may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get full knowledge of your condition. They say try some controlled drinking. I had a guy that I was working with that did this a number of years ago. And he was, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I said, well, then fine. Let's do the controlled drinking. Okay. What'll that look like? Well, let's have, what do you want? I like whiskey. Okay. How about a shot of whiskey a day? No, I like more than a shot. Okay. Let's say, how about 3 shots? 3 shots, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What do you think? Okay, fine. So he set a calendar up on the refrigerator, 3 shots, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I didn't hear from him for a while. About 3 weeks later, I get this call. How you doing? Not doing well. Not doing well. I need some help, really. So I go over and look at the calendar. And the first week looked really good. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then it started getting kind of weird. I said, what happened here? He said, well, I got to that second Monday and I borrowed Wednesday. And then I got to Wednesday and I borrowed Friday and Monday. And then like the third week, it was just off the charts. But the question is, they're saying, get full knowledge of your condition. Find out for yourself. They're not saying, you can't control your drinking. They're saying, prove it to yourself. Run the damn experiment. Go do that if you're not convinced. All we're doing with this part of the book is we're just answering the question for ourselves. I'm not answering it for you, and they're not answering for you. Am I alcoholic? Do I have this thing? Do I appear to be powerless over alcohol? How am I doing with my life? How manageable is that? Do I believe or am I willing to believe in a power greater than myself? And C, do I want to do anything about it?
Can I do that experiment with crack?
Yeah, you can do anything you want. You see what I'm saying? Run the experiment. Because you'll get sober on your experience, not mine. If you can answer yes to those questions, then you know some important information. You have alcoholism. But you haven't decided to treat it yet. We're just getting in front of the questions here. And then we're going to get to, do I want to do anything about it? That's the third step. And a lot of people will leave at that point. It's very simple. The first 3 steps are conclusions of the mind. I'm powerless. I can't manage my life. I'm willing to believe in the power, or there is a power. I'm willing to believe that power could affect a change in me. And now the third step, I'm willing to turn my thinking and my actions in the direction of that power. All of those are internal conclusions of the mind. Also indicative of the first miracle of your recovery, that you could come to those conclusions. Now we separate the herd, because now we're going to get into action in the 4th step, and we're going to see who's really doing the deal and who's just talking about it. Because that's when it turns into actions, externally quantifiable. But, so, where the hell am I? Oh, man of 30, are we there?
Maybe not. Well, your paragraph.
Though there's no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. Why would you want to stop when it was working? That wouldn't be the time to stop. Oh, but the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there's still yet time. We've heard of a few instances where people who show definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here's one. Man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. So he had several of the same awarenesses that Bill had. Waking up in the morning, liquor ceased to be a luxury, became a necessity. I saw it, I couldn't take so much as one drink. This guy's having the same experience. Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he'd been successful in business and had retired, he wouldn't touch another drop. Wow. An exceptional man, no kidding. He remained bone dry for 25 years. And retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief, an idea, a set of ideas, which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Now, for us, the people in this room, a long period of sobriety might be a week, might be a month, might be 6 months, a year, a couple of years. It might be anything. It's whenever you run out of rope. But it's the idea. I've been sober for a while now, and I think everything's okay. I think everything's okay. I think it's safe to go back in the water now. And you get in there and you find out there's more sharks than when you left. Out came the carpet slippers in a bottle. In 2 months, he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. Tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found he couldn't. You know, this is what they mean by beyond human aid. This guy's got money. He started drinking. It became problematic right away. Went to the hospital a couple of times, not to quit, to moderate. Then he went back. He needs to stop altogether. Now, why shouldn't he be able to? He stopped before. But all the while, he wasn't drinking. His alcohol was doing push-ups in the back of his head. And then it finally let the tiger out of the cage. Every means of solving his problem, which money could buy, was at his disposal. Best doctors, best hospitals, best care, best treatment. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us believe that if we remain sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. But here is a man who at 55 years found he was just where he had left off at 30. We, Alcoholics Anonymous, we have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we're in short time as bad as ever. If we're planning to stop drinking, turn it into a question, am I planning to stop drinking? Then there must be no reservation of any kind nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think they can stop as he did on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who'd been drinking 20 years. Important to be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. The only requirement is, do you have the phenomenon of craving? Do you have the allergy? Do you have the mental obsession? Doesn't matter if you drank for 2 months or 20 years. If you got it, you got it. If you don't got it, then according to these guys, you're not an alcoholic. It's particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished at their inability to stop. We who are familiar with the symptoms see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try and get them to see it. As we look back, we feel we'd gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. If he's a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there's scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will drink the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. So, Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, the reader, 2 tests I can run to diagnose myself. Test 1, try some controlled drinking. Drink, stop abruptly. Do it a bunch of times to get full knowledge of your condition. Okay? Now it says, experiment 2. Try not drinking for a year, some controlled sobriety. If you or me, I'm looking at those 2 options, I think I'll take plan 1. Because I know when you say try not drinking for a year, that is a ridiculous proposition. I can't not drink for 4 hours. Try not drinking for a year. Try flying to the moon. I mean, give me a break. But those are the 2 tests we run. And we've all run those in our own way. A lot of us have run them before we got here. I ran both of those before I got here. When I got here, I was done. I was blessed. I was really done. And I didn't have to run any. I ran them all while I was drinking. I tried controlled sobriety. I stayed sober 11 months once. Of course, I didn't stop smoking dope, but I quit drinking for 11 months. I did try some controlled drinking. I tried drinking on certain days. I tried drinking and leaving. I didn't know I was running the experiment until I read the bloody book. But, run the experiment. Because what they want is they want me, the reader, to get full knowledge of my condition. And my condition, as managed by me, is without hope. That's what they want me to conclude. I'm hopeless. They can do that. And they can beat my ass down with that because they have a way to bring hope to me. They have a solution. You see, when I deal with a doctor, he's only got what Silkworth said. We've worked with you, and all we can suggest is don't drink. Well, I'm sorry. That's just not a strong enough pill. We suggest you don't drink. Really? Fine. Whatever. And I won't, so okay, I'm not drinking. And then pretty soon I got to drink because I'm a thinker. Alcoholic says, don't drink, you're hopeless. You're hopeless and you're going to die. And you're a pretty lousy person and you look at your behavior in the 4th step, you're not a very nice person. Now, agreed, it's your behavior. You're sick, you're not bad. But the bottom line is this is you. This is your behavior. Sucks. I'd drink if I felt like that. So, for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We are assuming, of course, the reader desires to stop. There's a good question. Do I want to stop? What am I doing in this room? Do I want to stop, or am I getting out of the rain? Am I here because it's here, I'm going to court, I got a court date coming, and I want to make this look right? She's been on my ass. My parents have been on my butt. My employer was, and it was getting ugly. So I went to everyone, and what do we say? We see it in the media all the time. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of shit and problems now, and I have a problem with alcohol. I'm going to rehab. Oh, wonderful. God bless you. If you're here for that reason, it won't take. It won't take because you're going to leave here with the same mind. So the question is, do I have a desire to stop? Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he's already lost the power to choose whether he'll drink or not. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it, this utter inability to leave it alone no matter how great the necessity or wish. I'm going to drink if I die, and I'm not going to drink if I die. Damn. Tough spot. How then should we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they're one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking. For obviously, this is the crux of the problem. Just a few pages ago in another chapter, they said elimination of alcohol is just the beginning, and then they said conclusion, the main problem centers in your mind. Now they're saying it again. We're going to describe some of the mental states that precede the relapse into drinking. Once I'm drinking, I've relapsed. The relapse is in my thinking. I'm lapsing back into old thought forms, old ideas, old beliefs. I'm relapsing into that thought that says it's okay to drink, those thoughts that tell me why I'm different, those thoughts that say it's okay. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats this experiment time after time, the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree, which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy, are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? What is he thinking? We know why he walks into the saloon. Because he's got the same mind he had before he went into the asylum. That's why. Our first example, we're going to quit after this example, so be patient with me. Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He's a good salesman. Everybody likes him. I hate this guy. He's an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. So here's a guy, by society standards, by cultural standards, this guy's got it dialed in. He's got a wife and family. They love him. He owns a car dealership. He's a big World War hero guy. He's respected in the community. Isn't that the thing that everyone's looking for, right? Bill, I'll prove to the world. Yeah, here we go. He's got it. Now he's got this little nervous disposition. What the hell? We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled. He began to work as a salesman for the business he'd lost through drinking. Ouch. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life, self-sacrifice, work with others. He failed to continue. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic in serious condition, so he had no problem with the first step. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. There's the consequence. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had deep affection. Another consequence. Yet he got drunk again. Because the imperious urge to drink surpasses any fear of consequence. Because when it's on me, it's on me. And it's going to be there until I drink. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is good. This is his story. Came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned. Had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I'd get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I'd been going to it for years. I'd eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at a table, ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk, still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Now it just got weird. I ordered a second lunch. Now, on the surface, it's not that big a deal, is it? But let's look at this a little closer. I came to work on Tuesday. What happened to Monday? I didn't want to come in. I called in sick. Maybe he starts work on Tuesday. Fine. I remember I felt irritated that I had to work at a place that I used to own. Little resentment. Just a little, no big deal. Dismisses it. Felt a little irritated. Little pissed off that this guy's got my business that I used, no big deal, that I used to own. Now I'm working for this SOP. Not a big deal, though. I had a few words with the boss. Nothing serious. You see how the minimizing is going on? Then I decided to drive in the country, see one of my prospects for a car. Felt hungry. I stopped at a place that I've stopped many times, right? No big deal. But he's walking around with a little bit of resentment, a little bit of irritation. He's not getting along too well with the guy that he's working for that's now got his business because he screwed up drinking. So he orders lunch, then he orders another lunch. It's like he's waiting for a bus. Watch what happens. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I bet he didn't call anyone up and say, hey, I got this idea. What do you think of this? No. I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk. I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. I felt reassured by the insane idea. Look, I'm putting whiskey in the milk so it won't hurt me. I want it to hurt me. I drink for effect. I'm taking something I drink for effect, and I'm telling myself I don't want the effect. And I don't want the effect so much, I'm going to do it more than once. Okay? The experiment went so well, I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. Didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was a threat of commitment, loss of family and position, to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, because he met with us and he found out. Yet all reasons for drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of a foolish idea that he could take whiskey if he only mixed it with milk. Self-knowledge will not be enough. Everything in this book is around we. We do this in community. Even if it's a community of two, we do it with other people. One of the reasons we do it with other people is to build in honesty and accountability. This is why we don't sponsor ourselves, because we come up with these great ideas. Whiskey and milk, check. What do you think? We think it's a fine idea. Good, let's go. Okay. And off to the races. So now he's in the nut house, comes out. Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. Here's a good definition of insanity. How could such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? You may think this is an extreme case. To us it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characterized of every single one of us. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences, but there was always a curious mental phenomenon that, parallel with our sound reasoning, there inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out because I'm powerless over the idea. Ideas have power. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity, how could it have happened? In some circumstances, we've gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we're obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happens. Oh, so you want to break up with me? I think I'll go to jail. I don't think that. I think I'll have a drink. But I end up in jail drinking at you. I don't like you. I think I'll kill me. We now see that when we drink deliberately instead of casually, there's little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. And then they're going to talk about the jaywalker. So what I want to say before we close is, there is Jim, this story, this guy that's got this life that's beautiful, except for this one little nervous problem he's got, and then it turns into a little drinking thing. The next guy is going to be Fred, the bookkeeper, same kind of guy. And I thought, why are they using examples like this? I can't relate to this at all. I think the reason they use those examples is because they're saying, look at this guy. He's got it all working in every area of his life. He's just got this one problem with alcohol, and it's kicking his butt. He has put up everything he's got, everything he holds dear and near to him. He's put it on the table for a stupid drink. Now, Roger, you have a life that doesn't work at all in any area, not just drinking, any area. It's all burned down. What do you think your chances are of getting over this on self-will, self-reliance? I don't think so. I don't think so. God bless you. See you Friday.
Thanks.